Hey everyone, it's Brian with GreyWolf Towers again. So I thought I'd share this video. So this video is going to be about a Zotac GTX 1063 gigabyte mini card and the replacement of the fan. I'm also going to go ahead and take a moment and clean it and do some new thermal paste and everything. But I wanted you to see how simple and easy the process is. And I've never done this before. I'm going to go ahead and take off the plastic from the little Zotac now. It's got the little clean spot that wasn't there before. So I've never used this card before this one here. So I've never replaced a fan on it, never done thermal paste on it or anything. It was formerly a mining card, so I'm going to replace the thermal paste just to make sure that it's got some good fresh thermal paste. So yeah, so here we go. We will need a screwdriver. I'm using an electric one. I do not recommend it if you are not familiar with your electric screwdriver. Use a standard handheld one instead. This one, however, I'm pretty familiar with. I'm going to use a little toothbrush that's been used before for cleaning stuff, a couple Q-tips soaked in rubbing alcohol, 91% or better. Do not use anything less than 91% rubbing alcohol. And then, of course, some thermal paste, some good stuff from Arctic Silver. This is their ceramic 2, which is a non-conductive one, so it should do good. And then I've got the cheap Chinese fan that I paid 10 to 12 bucks for on eBay. Took about 2 weeks, 3 weeks for shipping. And yeah, gotta buy them from China on eBay if you're in America and need one. They do not sell them from Zotac directly. All right. So now, I do typically recommend that you do this over a desk or a table. However, right now, that kind of space in my place is kind of limited and hard to come by. So I'm going to do it here on the couch, let you all see it. So now we've taken off 4 screws off of the mini model here, and it then pulls right up. No fuss, no muss, easy going. And then we just pull the little plug off there. So there we go, we've now got the heatsink and the cooler separated. So now, for what we're going to do, like I said, I'm going to clean the thermal paste off. And it's kind of crusty, so I'm going to say I think I was wrong. I don't think they ever did the thermal paste. I mean, if they did, then they were really running this thing hard. There we are. So now the GPU is clean. We'll go ahead and set that down. So now we're going to clean the actual heatsink itself. For that, I have an extra Q-tip here. So yeah, it's kind of so I'm kind of glad that we're doing this. Not because I'm glad to have a damaged card, but because I'm glad that we're getting the thermal paste redone. Just went ahead and did that, and you'll see the yuck on it. This isn't as bad as some that I've seen. I mean, like I've said before, I've had GTX 560s that I replaced the thermal paste on in early 2019, late 2018. Those cards are what, 6 years old, 8 years old, something like that. Never had thermal paste removed. That's kind of ugh. So I mean, that stuff was on so bad I had to use a screwdriver and scrape it off. So for this, we are going to have to, not only the 4 screws from the back of the card need to be removed, but also our screwdriver. We're going to need to take off 4 more smaller screws. And I'm just putting them in. This thing's not going to be easy on this screw. So I'm going to switch it to hand mode, and I'm just going to go ahead and voila, the shroud comes off of the fan and heatsink. So now, like I said, we're going to take this little old here, and we're going to just take the toothbrush and we're just going to run it over here. So yeah, it's kind of a little dusty underneath, but not too bad. You would think that it would be a little bit dirtier being that it's a mining card, so I'm kind of surprised that it's not filthy yucky in here. It's just a little bit of dust, basically, that's sticking to the sides. So it's not too bad. And so I'm going to go ahead and just quickly do that. And then the next step, I'm just going to keep track of these screws separate from the others real quick. And I'm using the fact that the one blade is broken to help me out here. So for the taking off, it's going to be a little bit easier. And voila, that is the fan. So now, matching these up, does look like they're the correct size. Looks like a little bit longer of a cable, but aside from that, looks like it'll match pretty good. So now, that aside, we're going to take the cable here, we're going to tuck that in here, like that. And we're going to take the little parts here, we're going to line them up with screw holes. Okay, so I had to switch. I'm going to use this screwdriver to get it started because it has a magnetic tip and my electric one does not. So I'm just going to put the screw on the tip here and then I'm going to put it in and get it started here. And I'm going to do the same thing for each of the 3 blade sections that it has. So now the 3 screws are in. So now I'm going to just go ahead and just going to make sure that they're all the way in here. Alright, so now this cable will be a little bit longer than the previous one. Alright, so we just need to put this back together again. Looks like there's a little bit of dust over here, so let's go ahead and get that out of the way too. Alright, so there we go. Alright, so now we get the little screws here. And so these 4 little screws just hold the shroud onto the fan and the heatsink. Nothing big there. So now you'll notice the spin of the fan is perfect. It runs fine, no catches, no hitting of anything. So really, honestly, the only thing that I'm worried about is the length of this here. But before we go putting this back together again, we're going to take our thermal paste. Now, I recommend using just over the size of a grain of rice. If it's a little too much, it's okay. If it's not enough, it's not a good thing. Now, me personally, I take it and I spread it around to make sure that it gets at least close to even. And the primary amount in the middle. And that way, when the heatsink goes over it, it'll smush it down. It'll come over the edge a little bit, but it won't be too bad. But on top of that, because of the fact that it's spread out, it'll make sure that it gets evenly distributed across the heatsink. So now for this, we are just now going to need to put these screws back into place. So we're going to start with 1. We don't want to screw it down all the way, just enough to keep it in place. And the main reason we're doing that is so that the card doesn't shift too much while we're putting in the others. And the reason we don't want to put it down all the way is if we go too far on one side too quickly, it may crack the GPU by putting too much pressure on it. And that hasn't been an issue for a long time. I'd say in the past 5 years I've never seen one crack, but I'd rather be safe than sorry with a card that's, you know, worth this much. So now we're just going to make sure that everything is locked into place. Now, the clicking you hear is because I have the clutch set to a 1, so when it first barely starts to snag something, it's going to stop. And that's why I feel comfortable with it, is that I know that it's not going to be too over the top on the tightening. The main issue that I'm worried about here, though, like I said, is the fact that this here is a bit long of a cable comparatively. Probably should have put this on before those 4 screws. Okay, so the shroud's getting in the way because I did this. So I'm just gonna have to undo the shroud. Alright, so the shroud, it's pretty easy to remove. It makes it so much easier to put this back in. Voila, a now fully functional Zotac 3GB 1060 mini card with all the fan blades. So we can now throw this one out, and this one should work perfectly fine. And we will go ahead and throw this in a computer, test it out with the same system test that we did before, and see how it performs now with the full fan. So thank you for watching, everyone. I hope the video was educational. If you liked our video, please make sure you hit the like button down below. Subscribe to our channel and keep up to date on new videos as they come out. And as always, feel free to leave us a comment down below letting us know what you think of the process of replacing a fan on here. So thanks for watching. Have a great day, everyone. Bye for now.